Baker Mayfield getting his work in as he gets ready for year number 3. Year 1, great. Year 2, not so great. The Cleveland Browns. Last year the problem was, Chris, they allowed the expectations to get out of control. And one of the things that first year and only year Coach Freddie Kitchens didn't realize is, I need to do something to reel these expectations in.
Yeah.
They ended up not having a horrible season, but it was never going to live up to the expectations unless they got to the Super Bowl. It was ridiculous. Now this year, fortunately for the Browns, the one good news item for Cleveland, the bar is far lower. It's going to be a lot easier to come out of this season with the perception and reality that you exceeded your expectations.
Definitely. I mean, yes, they're off. Last year we were all like, are you kidding me? Odell Beckham Jr. and Kareem Hunt are on that football team, and we saw the way Baker Mayfield ended his rookie year to where we just thought, oh my gosh, the Browns are going to be like in Super Bowl playoff contention, and this is going to be unbelievable to watch. Well, that didn't happen. You're right. And, there's something to win in the NFL, as we've talked about a lot, and being battle-tested and understanding how to handle certain situations of a game, especially in those last 4 minutes of the first half and the end of the game, that really determine whether you win by 2 or lose by 2. And they were, not great in those departments. And of course, Baker Mayfield didn't have a great year. But Cleveland is one of those teams. I like where you put them in your rankings because they're, again, we hit it yesterday. They're one of those teams I certainly got a little star next to go, oh, they didn't make the playoffs last year. This would be one of the teams that I would put in that small group if you made me put money to go, they're going to be in that conversation this year, and they very likely could be in the playoffs.
Yeah, we got them at number 18 in the preseason power rankings. And remember, that extra spot in each conference makes it easier for a team to get to the postseason, makes more teams than not relevant and alive deeper into the season. The problem last year with the Browns, beyond the expectations, may have been that Freddie Kitchens just wasn't suited for the job. And I say may have been in an effort to be polite and kind to Freddie Kitchens. It became obvious he was over his skis. As I said last year, he's so far over his skis, he doesn't even know he has skis on at this point. And remember when Bob Wiley, the guy who became an unlikely star of Hard Knocks 2 years ago because of that giant belly that would move in unison with his barking commands, he got let go when Freddie Kitchens became the head coach. So it's easy to say, oh, he's just disgruntled. But he did a radio interview last year, and he said, look, it wasn't Freddie Kitchens that was getting the most out of Baker Mayfield in 2018. It was Ken Zampese, the quarterback's coach. He was doing all that stuff. Zampese also got the shoe. So in hindsight, Bob Wiley kind of looked like he was onto something because whoever was there wasn't able to get the same thing out of Mayfield that we saw in 2018. So that leads into this fill-in-the-blank thing we're going to do, Chris. Baker Mayfield's performance thus far in his career, 2018 and 2019 taken together, has been what?
A roller coaster, an up-and-down affair. The rookie year was phenomenal. He was in the voting with Saquon Barkley to, where we were going, man, I don't know who's going to win. We saw plays, and we saw a guy that just doesn't really blink in the face of pressure or anything like that. And then we got into the second year, and not to say that he was blinking in the face of pressure, but I think he was blinking a little bit in the face of expectations. And, oh, man, I got to get Odell Beckham Jr. the ball, and I'm supposed to be, taking that next step as a star. And, yeah, his game faltered a little bit. We've talked about some of the technique issues he had and just some of the careless decisions he made, and that led to a year last year that was a little all over the place. Added to the fact, again, I don't want to blame Baker Mayfield, to all the things you said about last year in Cleveland with Freddie Kitchens and sometimes the style in which they approached the football game and the way they wanted to play it, I didn't think always made sense. That would be the thing. It wasn't a cohesive game plan altogether. It was kind of like, I got these weapons and we're just going to go out there and let it fly. And then you wanted to go, well, wait, you can't pass protect. Your quarterback's a little off right now. Odell Beckham Jr. is not totally healthy. Jarvis Landry's not totally healthy. How about we play through the run game? The O-line's a really good run blocking team. There was too many games where they tried to be the greatest show on turf where I wanted to go, that's not what you are this year. Just play to your strength. And that's where Kevin Stefanski, I think, is going to really come in handy for this team.
Chris, the word I'm going to use for Baker Mayfield so far is disappointing. He came in as the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and he really created that expectation that he was going to quickly join the ranks of franchise quarterbacks, like a Patrick Mahomes did, right? Like a Lamar Jackson has done. And that follow-up from Mayfield. And I think part of it was, Cleveland was so desperate for someone they could rally around like LeBron James.
Sure.
They wanted that superstar. They wanted that guy. And then they got Odell Beckham Jr. as well. I don't think anybody knew what to do with two of them. But I feel like Baker Mayfield just didn't embrace that moment, that opportunity, that chance to be the franchise quarterback. We talked when we did the countdown of your quarterback rankings about those technical issues, the mechanical flaws that got into his game last year. If you're going to be one of the high-end franchise quarterbacks, even if you're not getting the right coaching, you're doing that yourself. You're getting the coaching away from your own coaching. You've got Tom House working on your mechanics in the offseason. You're not doing all these commercials that Baker Mayfield did last year. You're not cashing in before you've won anything. And I don't mean this to be a criticism of Baker Mayfield. I just think maybe he let the cart get a little too far in front of the horse last year. And now the question is, can he get things realigned and humble himself a little bit, take a lower profile, and go back to the lab and understand what it truly means to be a franchise quarterback? It's not just having one good season. It's really committing yourself every day of the year to being exactly what you need to be for those 16 games in the regular season.
Well, I think he's willing to do that. Listen, you make some points there that I agree with. Disappointing, I think that's a little strong. I do. He is he's given them hope. He is a playmaker and a guy that has talent to be a top 10 quarterback, game-changing type guy. I'm not going to say Patrick Mahomes. We know that's a special, rare class there. But, okay, where I will agree with you a little bit is, yeah, maybe he got, a little too big for his britches, right? Where, okay, great first year, I won the Heisman, and you're right, the commercial thing, and maybe he lost a little bit of that. I'm going to just, sneak under the radar and grind and work and lead my football team. So I understand that aspect, but I don't at least look at it as a disappointment. Baker Mayfield, just so you know that out there, that was Mike Florio.
No. You know what? You're joking, but you're not joking. And one of the things he's got to mature past is this idea of having these little feuds and settling scores and, the Tony Grossi stuff. If you want to be a franchise quarterback, Baker, you got to set that bag down. Let it motivate you internally, but you can't act that way.
That's fair.
It's not going to fly. Patrick Mahomes doesn't act that way. Lamar Jackson doesn't act that way. Kyler Murray's not going to act that way. If you want to be a true franchise quarterback, you got to get past that stick up your butt, attitude. Let it fuel you inside, but don't let that bubble up because it's not going to win you fans when things go sideways. If everything's fine, people are just going to say, well, that's just Baker being Baker. The moment you stumble, people are going to say, yeah, that guy's kind of a jerk anyway.
Well, be more in, we want to say? Mahomes does it, but he's got a good way of doing it where it doesn't seem like it's angering him and he's being rude to people in the process. And that's where probably Baker Mayfield came off a little the wrong way there, but this offseason, we haven't heard much from Baker. And it sounds like it's been all work. And we heard, I saw an article the other day, Kevin Stefanski was down at Austin, Texas, working with them. I think there's a highly motivated guy who's going to be back on his A game this year and fix some of the issues. And, of course, they got a supporting cast, and I think a guy in Kevin Stefanski who is a good offensive coordinator, and really he wants to run what he did in Minnesota. And I go, okay, yeah, they did some good things in Minnesota. And believe it or not, the Browns are set up to run that Minnesota offense better than Minnesota. They're better across the board. 2 receivers, better in Cleveland. Tight ends, better in Cleveland. Offensive line, better in Cleveland. Running backs, ooh, it's close. It's really close. I don't know where I'd go there. And then I do think Baker Mayfield is capable of more specialness, than a Kirk Cousins. He's not Kirk Cousins yet, but he has the ability to certainly make more plays and do more off schedule that way. And that's where I get pumped up for Cleveland and Kevin Stefanski and Joe Woods, the D coordinator as well, with a defense we haven't even talked about yet that's got some freaky dudes on that side too. Cleveland's roster is legit. It is legit. And if they're not in that last 2 weeks playoffs conversation, I will be disappointed because there is no excuse. They got it all here.
The all-important dividing line between the quarterback who can run the play that's called and the quarterback who can improvise and run the play that isn't called. Cousins, fortunately, or unfortunately rather, sorry, Kirk, can only run the play that's called. Mayfield can do it beyond that. Real quickly, best case, worst case.
Best case, I'm going to go out. I mean, again, this is best case. I think they're capable of winning the division. I do. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I bet money, but would I sit here with that team and that roster and be shocked if they were sitting there at 11-5 or 12-4 and won the division? I can't say that I would with that superstar power and what they've done this offseason in the draft and free agency. Worst case, man, I can't imagine it. The absolute worst would be 6-10. I mean, the absolute
6-10.
worst. Right.
Bing. I was thinking the exact same thing,
Yeah.
6-10. It kind of reminds me of the Falcons. We talked about the Falcons yesterday. Everybody's talking Buccaneers, Saints. The Falcons could swing up on the outside. In the AFC North, it's Ravens, Steelers, Ravens, Steelers, Ravens, Steelers. The Browns could swing up on the outside.
Right.
And now, look, the Bengals, who knows what they're going to do, but I think those three teams, of those three teams, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, one of those three is going to win the division. That's really narrowing it down. But I think the Browns could sneak up on the two teams that we assume will be battling for the top of the division this year.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.